You are listening to the Icehouse podcast, hosting conversations with gritty Kiwi business owners and leaders and industry-leading minds.
Welcome everyone to the Icehouse podcast. It's Bryar here, Community Manager. It is awesome to have you joining us as we tune into Kerryn Stokes' business story. Kerryn is an owner-manager program alumni, and a line that she says early on in the podcast recording really sums her up. She says, "Life is so much better with a smile on your face." Kerryn has a way of lighting up any room, telling me that it comes from a learning on how to fill your own cup to give your best to others. I love that. Her story is one of backing herself, finding fulfillment in balancing work, life, family, and play. And her experience at the Icehouse that came at a really pivotal time for her within a health battle, giving her extra motivation to get through a very deep valley moment. Now she is on the other side, lapping up the Icehouse community, the business community, post her owner-manager program experience, and is loving learning from others and gaining fresh insight regularly. Let's tune in to this inspiring conversation with Kerryn Stokes now. Awesome. Well, welcome, Kerryn, to the podcast.
Thank you.
Nice to have you here in sunny Christchurch.
It's an amazing day out there. It's really nice to have the sunshine for people from out of town who think it just rains down here.
I know, right? I came in and I was like, okay, yes, Christchurch, a good place. Yeah, no, it's awesome. We like to start the podcast with a very open question, and that is, tell us a little bit about yourself. What are you passionate about? What does life look like?
Life is busy. I think everybody's life will say that, but it's being out there, making the most of every minute. I definitely live by the mantra of being positive and living every day like it's your last. You just don't know what's around the corner, and I tend to get out there every day and try and do my very best, no matter what's on my plate. And every day can be completely different in my world. So, yeah, I'm passionate about making a difference in people's lives, particularly, and seeing that in action rather than just doing it and leaving it at that. I like to see the results, and I'm lucky that I work in healthcare where a lot of the time I can see that. But that's I get a joy of other people's happiness. But in the process of that, I always remember that I always say I can't help anybody else if I can't help myself. So looking after myself is really important too. So yeah, that's what.
You are a very positive, joyful person. You know, like as soon as someone sees you, I feel like you bring a bit of brightness to their day. So it's cool that that's sort of an intentional thing as well as just natural personality, right?
I think so. I mean, I like to be the positive person in the room, and if people can't, if they're not, then it's my challenge of the day to make them happy and smiling.
I love that.
And my workmates, I think, will say that I walk in and the whole place explodes when I walk in the door because everybody suddenly has to smile or listen to my bad jokes. But yeah, if I'm having a bad day, it's very easy to spot because it's hopefully very rare, but I soon crack out of it.
Yeah.
Life's much better with a smile on your face.
I love that. That's so cool. I want to go back to something you said just then. What was the process like, or has it always been a decision to make sure that your cup is full to be able to give out to others?
Yeah, that's a really good thing. I learned something a long time ago when someone compared life to the good old Air New Zealand safety video. It's like you can't help anybody put anybody else's seatbelt on until you have your own.
Oh, I like it.
Seatbelt, sorry, got that wrong.
Yeah.
Anybody's oxygen on until you've got your own. And,
yes.
That's the thing. Where I thought about it, it's like, if you aren't at your best, then how can you help somebody else? And it's all about leading by example and being the best you can be and showing that to people. And every day I've got to be a role model to my two children, and I'm very aware of what they take on themselves about what I do and how I do it. And no one's perfect, but that's my goal. Is if I can get out the door and feel like I'm doing something good, then I've got my foot halfway through the day. So
wow,
yeah, it's definitely something about other people. But as I said, you can't help other people if you're not happy. It's very much I see negative people just protrude negative feelings across people, and especially in a room. I work in a business where I've got 42 staff in a retail setting, and if somebody's having a rough day or somebody's not good, it spreads a lot quicker than anything. So I like to be the one who just flips the table and says, well, let's make it, if something's going bad, let's make it good. And that's how, I guess that's the world of healthcare, is that you're trying to turn bad into good all the time and make good better. So.
Yeah, wow, that's so interesting. I like hearing that. Thank you. We're getting an idea for what your life looks like. What does a day in the life of Kerryn look like?
Oh, gosh.
Alarm goes off.
Yeah, alarm goes off and I hit snooze now. Every day is different, to be honest. I don't work a 40-hour week. I haven't since I had my children. And then when my children started school, I became a solo mum as such. So I had to work my weeks around childcare. I always believed that if I had children, that they were going to be my job, and so I've worked around school. So when they're at school, I work, and when they're not at school, I'm around for them.
Awesome.
So I leave work every day and say, right, back to my second job, and I do have two full-time jobs as such. So work, I have a couple of rostered days where I'm in the dispensary. I'm obviously a pharmacist, so I work with my team as part of the team. I employ myself on those days, and I'm just an employee like everybody else, and I love it. I absolutely love being at that level. I don't have my owner hat on. I don't have my manager hat on. I have a manager who looks after me.
Wow.
I have to text her this morning to make sure I can get some time off next week for something. And I love that. That's I think really important, that it brings me back to reality. And what I love most about my job is just doing it some days. And I think I'm very lucky that I can just do it. And some days, and then other days, I particularly want to work on my business. So I'm available to cover staff if they're off. I'm available to go and do extra learning, or to do some teaching outside, or to go to Icehouse, or whatever I want to do. So I'm very, very lucky that I've made myself accessible like that. And I've worked really hard to do that over the last few years.
Yeah.
It could be easy just to say I'm going to go back and work 6 days a week and be on the roster and earn my wages. But to me, business, work and life is more than just money in the bank at the end of the week. It's about getting that balance right. So getting back to my normal day, depending what I'm doing. But if I'm working, I usually go to the gym first while the kids are still asleep in the morning, and then get back just to wake them up and get them out of bed and off to school, and then I will drive into work, and then I will be back in time to do the after school urban mum duties.
Love it.
Dance and whatnot to be done, and I try and fit in a few extracurricular things around that. I, in the past, been on volunteering committees with parenting networks and things. I belong to a book club. I spend time with my kids' sport and fundraising for trips and things like that with them. And I have family that are relatively close. I like to spend time catching up with them. But it's always, every day's different. If it was a normal day, I think I'd be bored. But I do like the ability that I can have given myself a little bit of flexibility in my life to be able to do what I want to do and be available for people when I can, rather than being a 40-hour week person.
What a beautiful life.
It's taken a while. Like I feel like I'm 21, but this year I've been. I'm turning 50 this year, so I've decided that that's where I want to look at, not where I've been, but where I'm going, and spend the next 10, 15 years of my career, maybe more, really giving back to myself and doing what I really, really want to do, and not just doing the same old, because I get in the car some days and think, what are we trying to achieve this week? Are we just trying to get to Friday and the kids are eating their lunch every day, and neither of them have been working in school, and and I've got to work, and or we actually got a goal here, and it's like I've really thought about that a lot, particularly in the last couple of years, about goals and integrating my personal goals with my work goals, and I guess Icehouse was something that led to that, a real awakening around that.
Following from that, like, what are some of those goals, or what's that sense of purpose that is driving you?
I spent a long time just going to work, as you do, and I think the realisation now is that I don't just have to go to work. I can, that whose goals am I achieving when I go to work? Am I achieving my personal goals? Am I achieving my workplace goals? And what do I want to get out of my week? And I've looked at it and gone, well, actually, what can I give? What's going to fill my bucket at the same time as filling other buckets? It's not just a one-way street. I've got to do two things. And so I worked really hard at. I've got a business mentor now who is amazing, who challenges me constantly. about all my thoughts around my personal goals, because as I said before, if you haven't got those right, you can't give any other way. And then how that integrates into my my workplace, to my strategy around my business going forward, goals, 5-10 year goals, where I want to be, what the dreams are. And and I think every day I do a journal. I've never thought I'd do this, thanks to Mr. Resilience Finn. I do spend a lot of time going, what's today's goal? And it's not just getting to the end of the day, which it used to be. And it's like just a little bit more, that little 1% better and all those things. But I think I've thought more radically about the decisions I make, and it's like, am I buying something because I want it or need it? And all those things have suddenly become a bit more clearer now. Yeah. I think it's sort of maturity and things as well. But, I just want to be able to get to the end of the week and have a smile on my face and say, look, hey, I did my best and we're all still alive.
Yeah. Winning.
That's a real family goal in my household. It can be a challenge some weeks. Other weeks, we fly. So
wow, that's really inspiring. I love hearing that, and just hearing that it's centred around that deeper purpose, right? Yeah. Because you're so right. You can just go through life getting to a Friday and going, oh, cool, we did it.
Yeah, wages are in the bank. Let's pay them for the groceries and move on to next week. But
that's not quite a beautiful life, is it? Yeah, exactly. But so many people do live like that, and so it's cool to celebrate them all.
For some people, that ticks their goals, and that's awesome. And for me, it's like I've never been one to rest on my laurels as such. And when I get a moment, I travel. I have a real passion for great food and travel, and I'll do it on my own if I have to. I will jump on a plane and go to the Gold Coast for the weekend and visit a friend. And if my kids are away with their dad, I have them for 24 out of 30 nights a month. So I have, and it sounds like a lot when people say you've got weekends without your kids, but like when you've only got 6 nights, you've really got to make the most of them. Yeah. And there's a lot of things you can do in 6 nights, but there's a lot of things you can't do. And I've learnt that to really embrace those nights. You can't sit at home and cry about woe is me. Get out there and make the most of those nights, because you need your energy back for when the kids are there. And I will. And I've got friends who are married with kids and like, we never get a break or we never go on holiday. I'm like, you've got to make these goals. If you don't, it won't happen. On paper, I shouldn't be able to take my kids to Fiji every year, but I work really hard to make sure that that's one of our goals. So that's what my kids love doing. That's my break, and I make sure that that's a priority. I don't have to earn $1 million a year to do it. And I just it's not about what your capacity is banking wise. It's about making goals, and you can achieve anything on anything if you want to. You just got to make it your goal. Yeah, and put your mind to it. Yeah, absolutely. Work towards it. Yeah, that's so interesting. Okay, this convo is good. I'm loving this. This is a good dose of daily inspiration for me. I want to hear a bit about the journey to ownership of Life Pharmacy. What does that look like? Obviously, you're a pharmacist and you're passionate about it. I decided when I left school that I wanted to go to university. I was Dutch of my school. Wow. Clever. That's the funny thing. When I went to university, I had a very funny nickname my first year at university. I was called the dumbest Dutch because I came from a small country school, which is amazing, and I led a full life through school. I was going out every weekend and rugby trips with my boyfriend, and I was going to school all week. I got top marks at school, and I left. By the time I left home at 17, which was quite young, I had a pretty full life. I wasn't just straight out of school. I'd been doing stuff, and so when I got to university, I was kind of I consider myself relatively worldly by that point compared to some, and got to uni, and everyone's like, oh, Kerryn's going to smash uni, she can do med. I'm like, nah, I don't want to do med. Well, my first year was a wee bit of a failure as far as exams went, and I didn't get into pharmacy school. I had a great year, and so I did a couple of years, and I became the first graduate with a BSc in pharmacology. So we're still going down the same name, but they just decided in my third year that they were going to offer pharmacology as a major, so I jumped onto the bandwagon, which is sort of a picture of things to come. I'm a person who sees a little bit of an opportunity, and I do like to take risks and be at the front of ideas. If something's out there, I tend to jump on, and a lot of the time it works, but a lot of the times, we're prepared that it won't work. So I jumped onto that, did my degree, thought, no, I want to go back to pharmacy school. I was 19, I had a degree, but nobody wanted a 19-year-old with a degree. So I went back to pharmacy school, got the dream job in Nelson when I finished pharmacy school, and, everyone said, my dad was a school teacher, and he's like, oh, if you can get a job in Nelson, it's like winning lotto. So I went to Nelson and lived up there for 7 years, worked my way through the pharmacy, from being the intern out of uni right through to being a dispensary manager on a 7-day pharmacy. And then my partner and I moved to Christchurch, and I just followed as such and got a job. And when I was about 18 months into the job, the owner came up to me and he said, look, I'm looking at retiring in 10 years' time. I want to sell my shares off over a 10-year time, and I want you to buy them.
Wow.
And I went, I don't want to buy them. What am I going to do with shares? It's like, I've got no money. And he's like, no, I'll finance you in, and you can buy shares. And I went home and I said, I feel like I've been a bit railroaded into this. I didn't know if I really wanted to be an owner. I just wanted to go to work and earn some money. Wow. And, I was in my early 30s, and there was 3 of us that he picked as such and told us that we were buying them. And so we did. So we went in, and I think the interest rates were horrendous in those days. Cost us a fortune. The bank manager said, what are you spending? Why are you paying so much for this? The lawyer and the accountant were like, you're crazy. And we were like, but he told us we had to. And we did. So we bought in 10% each for 3 of us, and he had 70%, and we had a buyout over 10 years. So I bought in up to 16.5% after 5 years, and then after 10-year point, we purchased his shares off him, and there was 3 of us that owned 33% each. Wow. So then I found myself fully into ownership. I mean, it was a slow ride into it. Very much a junior partner, just basically had a hat on more than any actual... I don't remember making a lot of decisions. I don't remember business plans. We just turned up to work in those days. Yeah. And we didn't make any money of it. We just paid back the debt. Yeah. So it wasn't really until the last couple of years when we bought out the older owner and had the place ourselves that we've actually made some big decisions around what are we going to do. I did a leadership course through Green Cross Health and got my NZQA in leadership, and thought, bit of a taste of, what I can do, but I don't really do this on a day-to-day basis, but I quite like to. I was still working relatively part-time after having my kids. And then, so a couple of years ago, we bought out the 3rd partner, so there's now just 2 of us. Yeah. So we've got a 50-50 ownership, and really active owners now. So, great. We spend, and I said, look, I want to do Icehouse, and this is where I always wanted to do an MBA, but it never happened. And so I thought, right, I need to look at things. And BNZ approached me and said, you should do Icehouse. So that's where I got to Icehouse. But awesome. I just wanted to be able to really put my best effort in with the business. And, we always knew that we were never going to make... It's not a big money-making business, but it's about being a strong business in the space we're in. Yeah. Because it's a really, really tough space, retail and healthcare, and it's very dependent on government funding, and so, it's not an easy place to be, but it's where my passion lies. And, I also wanted to test that passion. It's like, is this where my passion lies? Do I want to be doing this for the rest of my life, or do I want to go back and be the travel agent that I always wanted to be? Or do I want to give myself capacity to be able to choose, what I do? And that's probably where I've kind of put my foot into the ownership model and thought, this is giving me the ability to make the decisions in my life that I want to do. Like, if I wasn't an owner, I would be working 40 hours a week. Yeah. I would be a struggling solo mum, having to get childcare for my kids, who, they're very lucky that they do have mum after school, but they moan and groan about it now. Imagine if they actually had to go to childcare. I think that's the path. Yeah. I mean, it's the path I took, but it's provided me in my lifestyle and my life that I've got now. No, I wouldn't have it any other way.
Wow. What a story.
That's my life story and a thing. But, it's been a ride. And as I said, there's so many people along the way that... if my previous owner, who I'm still really good friends with and spend time with, he's now 87 and just retired himself at 87. And, I owe a lot to him for just taking initiative and saying, sorry, Kerryn, there's no decision here, you've got to buy those shares, you're in. And I was like, this me 32-year-old is like, and then I made the very brave decision to finance it and do it under my own name as something I did. So when my relationship broke up 7 years ago, my business was clearly in my back pocket, which was made life so much easier. And of course, it's now provided for me, giving me the ability to to be able to carry on my life and have some financial stability going forward, which has been the best move ever.
Yeah.
I see my friends all say to me, if that had happened to me, I'd be on the street. And it's like, some of those decisions I made definitely help in the big picture of day-to-day stuff. And so my kids think I just sell hair ties, and they just want to buy makeup from me every day. But sometimes I think they're proud of me, and sometimes I think they just they wonder why I go to work some days.
They'll get it one day.
They will
one day. But that's so inspiring. What's a piece of advice that you would give yourself a bit of a heads up on, knowing what you know now?
Back yourself. Like, I really didn't back myself.
Yeah.
I had, it was like, you're not going to be able to do this. And, and then even right up until the last couple of years, I've been the one female out of two males. I always found all of the decisions that were made, I was always the good cop versus bad cop scenario, and I was the good cop, and the boys would make the hard decisions, and I would just go along with them. Whereas now I feel really empowered to make my own decisions and stand by them. And I'll challenge every decision if I have to. But I just really enjoy that ability to make a difference now. And it's been a real ride in that sense of going from just not having any confidence at all and taking the easy route, because it's always the easy way to go, isn't it? And nothing's ever easy, no matter which way you go. And it was hard, and it will be hard, and there's times where I just wake up in the middle of the night in a hot sweat and go, I know, right, it's menopause. But I generally, everyone says, you're not stressed, business owners should be stressed. It's like, I'm very lucky that I think I deal well with stress, and I've never been one to lose sleep over things for longer than an hour or two. But I'm very much a realist, and if one door shuts, another opens, or there's always something around the corner. And some people are like planning years ahead and things, and I have my 5-year goals and things, but I'm very much a reactive person, and I go, we can plan for this, but what if this happens? We always, everything, my bank manager and my accountant are like, you've got to have these budgets that roll over, and it's like, I don't know what's going to happen in the next 12 months, and I can tell you this and that and this. I said, but healthcare is such a wild world. Who knows it? There'll be another outbreak of something, or something will happen, or we'll get a funding taken off us or given to us. Those things I cannot predict. I can go on year by year, but there's so much unpredictability in our world. And it's it's very hard to put a growth model in that as well, because it's so much out of our hands. It's just, your growth model has to be in your head rather than on paper, in the sense that you just need to be really motivated to take an opportunity, take a risk, be at the forefront of anything that's out there, and just think a little bit out of the square, because if you stay in the square, you're just going to end up a dot.
And hasn't the last 4 years proven that,
Absolutely.
in terms of
Absolutely.
you couldn't really predict what that was going to look like?
No.
Wow, that's really interesting, and ties in nicely, the stance of, hey, I needed to back myself. What's some advice or tips for those that are struggling to back themselves?
It's
especially
a tricky
women,
one. Yeah, especially women. And I mean, when I bought into the pharmacy, it must have been about when we bought the owner out, so 7 years ago. The bank then challenged me and said, can you do the survey? We think you'd be good for Icehouse. And I looked at that and went through and did the whole survey, went out of my league, not something I would be in my safe zone with. Talked about exporting and stuff, and I'm in retail. I count pills. This isn't me. But thanks a lot. Have a nice day. And then a couple of years later, just before COVID, it's me pre-COVID, PC, I was approached again and said, would you like to do it? And I was like, let me just line all my ducks up and see if it could work, knowing in my head that I'm very good at making excuses for some things. It's like, I knew that it wasn't going to work, but I kind of thought, no, you've got to give it a look. I was solo mum, care of my children who were only young. I was on an income of less than $30,000 a year. So I didn't have any capacity to finance it. I didn't have a capacity for time around my children. I had to rely on somebody else to look after them for me to be able to do it, which then became in my position, I felt very selfish. And I think women find making moves for themselves the first thing I think of is like, I can't do that, my time and money goes to my family, not to me. So I found that was my biggest barrier, was that this is something that I can't do because there's other things that are needed in my life. So yeah, time around my work, my children and money were the biggest barriers. And I was just about to make a decision, and I was sitting in my car and a phone call came from, I think it was, who was before Emon?
Gareth.
Yeah, he called me and he said, have you thought any more about it? And I said, I'm just sitting in my car outside my specialist, and I said, I've just been diagnosed with cancer.
Wow.
And he went, oh. I went, yeah. I said, melanoma, it's not good. I've got to go in hospital next week, and so maybe now's not a good time.
Wow.
And I went, he's like, yeah, get back to me when you can. So that was my first curveball. So
wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I had a week from when it was diagnosed to when I was in hospital having surgery and nuclear medicine to have my nodes all checked and all those things, and that was just, that threw everything up in the air at the time.
That's huge.
Yeah, so, and then I was left off work trying to look after 2 kids. My parents were amazing. It's quite breathtaking when you're in your mid-40s and your parents have to move back in with you. But my mum and dad dropped everything and came and helped, and I was on an e-scooter for 6 weeks and driving myself into town every second day to get dressing changes and things. But and then the surgery eventually, the first time it failed, so I had to go back and have a re-surgery, by which time my parents were in Italy on holiday. So the second time I really had to do it on my own. But yeah, we got there, and the kids are amazing. So I think that's another point where you're suddenly being told that maybe Christmas time you might not be here.
Wow.
And and that's like a massive hit when you're waiting for those results, and you're like, is it going to be any worse than what it is? And so luckily enough for me, I hadn't spread my nose, and surgery went really well second time around, and I was paranoid we better wear nice pretty shoes again because it was on my foot, but here I am with nice shoes on, and Catherine Wilson's
Alumni.
And then so that was my first throwback, and then I guess there was another good thing in the sense of the good thing came out of that was like, wow, life's short, let's do the stuff, you want to do it, just do it, I'll go to the bank, I'll get the finance, I'll stop my coffees for a week, whatever I have to do. And our business isn't a big financial business, and so I had to fund Icehouse out of my own funds, so I borrowed money to do it. I didn't take payment from work, I took leave from work, used my leave to go to the thing, so it was a real big call for me.
Huge commitment.
And my ex-partner was amazing. He said, look, whatever you want, whatever you need with the kids, I'll make it work so you can do Icehouse. He said, I know this is your passion, I know that you'll be amazing. And awesome. I was like, well, that's a really big help knowing that I could just get up and go to Auckland every month. And so I did. I lined everything up and got a couple of scholarships, which was amazing. And in that process, that was my first step of meeting people. Like, when I did my interviews for scholarships, I met Rosemary from the Canterbury Business Network, and and people like that just start going, well, actually, I can do this stuff. I'm not out of my league. I'm not in the wrong place. This is where I want to be. And boom.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
And just taking a moment to soak that in. That's a huge story.
So when I walked into the first day at Icehouse, and Liz bowled up to me and gave me a hug and goes, "G'day, I'm Liz." And I was like, oh, this lady's full on. She's awesome. And then Chris and Raymond were there, and I was in a group of 15 and 2 women out of 15. So, of course, I suddenly felt empowered by that. It's like, I'm going to show these boys. And then I sat down and it's like, oh, these boys will know their stuff. And but it was the most amazing experience, and literally I couldn't get on that plane quick enough every month to go to Auckland. I absolutely loved it, and I still. As I said, we talk about alumni being family, and to me that's another word for family now, because those guys and girl on my group I literally rely on every week. We talk every week. We all share our highs, our lows, our wins, our losses, and just having that group of people outside my business. Like, normally the only people I've ever come across are people in pharmacy and healthcare. My networks were so close that I walked into a room where all of them, I think there was one person in retail. The rest of them were all in B2B. Some of them were exporting. Some of them had, and they were so diverse. There was people who had inherited their family business. There was people who bought it for a nickel and turned it into $1 million. There's people that paid a fortune for it and were struggling. No one in the room had the same story, and everybody was on the same level, that we all went to work, we all came home at night, we all went to bed, we all had families to rely on us, and at the end of the day, we're all the same, And that was a real moment for me going, we talked about imposter syndrome and that before, and I'm like, you can put labels on things, but the reality is we are just all doing the same stuff, and it's just what we want to get out of it and how we do that on a day-to-day basis. And what I call a win for me might be a different win for somebody else, and I learned very quickly that the comparisons weren't what was on paper or what was in the finances or what was in the in the glossy websites. It was just in the people, and it is all about the people.
Wow. Yeah. I'm really taken back by this. This is amazing. Do you think the cancer moment made you jump on the Icehouse opportunity?
Absolutely. I think it was the phone call. It was all about timing. I mean, I literally was sitting in my car outside the specialists, and when Gareth rang, and I'm like, you're the first person I've told this to, because I literally just found out. And he's like, oh, and of course, sidebar about it, but it's like, actually, that was probably the best thing, was that phone call, because that was my little cherry to go for. It's like, right, when I get through this, which I will, I'm going to start, I've got 20 years of my career. I'm not just going to count pills. I'm not just going to do what I've always done. I'm going to do what I can do and actually get out the door every day and do what I really want to do. And it's like,
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. That really, sometimes it is those big moments in life that makes us get a bit of perspective on how short life can be, and how we just need to run after things and back ourselves.
Absolutely, and as I said, you just don't know what's around the corner. And, I live for the day. I must admit, I'm not the best person at, I save money and things like that, but I do live for the moment because of that sole reason. Is I just see people who save things for a rainy day, and my mum always said, use the casserole dish, don't put it away in the cupboard. And it's like, that's what it's there for. If you're going to do it because that's what life's about.
Wow, that's so awesome. Thank you for sharing that. What's something that so you've gone on the Icehouse journey. Maybe let's chat about that for a little bit. So we know how you connected with the Icehouse. What were some key takeaways? Obviously, you were loving it. You enjoyed jumping on at the plane.
And I was, all of us sort of got there, and there was this buzz in the room when we walk in. Everyone's like, it's so cool to see you. And it was interesting because, there's 15 people in the room, and 15 people in different worlds, and you're not all going to be each other's, best mate. And I remember something, I went to a ladies' night out years ago, and someone said to me, about the lickable third. And I was like, the lickable third? And they're like, well, in life, it's like an ice cream, there's, in a room of 100 people, there'll be 33 people who you like. You can, you sit and eat ice cream with, and, they're your people, you get on with them, you can yarn to them, you stop on the street and go for a coffee, or, they're your third of things. The next third of people are your acquaintances. You might be friends on Facebook, or you wave at them, or you know them, and they're people that they acknowledge that and no harm done. Then there's the bottom, well, not the bottom, the other third, which are people that just aren't your cup of tea.
Yeah.
And you're just not ever going to get on with them. But that is absolutely normal. And so every time we see people, people really worry. I mean, there's a lot of people who, my children, I tell this to all the time, is don't worry about the people that don't like you. Because for every one of them, there's two people that do.
Yeah.
And you can't waste your energy on people that you just aren't in your sphere. And so I'm always thinking about that, and people always say to me, but everybody likes you, or you like everybody. I say, not necessarily. I said, some people, I just, you've got to accept that you're just not going to get on with. And so I was a bit aware of that in this room. I was thinking, who are the people I'm going to get on with and who aren't? And it's like, that was quite overwhelming at the start, but I don't think it even got to that. I don't think I'd be able to pick 5, but I think you just have to accept that people are different, and that you put your energies into that 33% that you get on with, and if you can do that, then your life is so much richer. And not to put, I think I see so many people putting energy into the 33 that they don't get on with, or they don't get them, and it's like, that's fine, they've got 66% of other people that they get on with, leave them to those people, don't waste your time on them. And so OMP for me was a real eye-opener in the sense of just being around people that work in different industries, and just love listening to their stories. Like, I learned so much, and I loved the way it was set up in the sense of there was some bit of work, but it wasn't like I'm not a big person for doing homework.
Yeah, homework.
but I didn't ever find anything that we did a struggle. I just found it as like just doing what I do. So it was just putting on paper or collating or sharing, and so that was really good. And I loved speakers. I loved hearing from people, and some of them were relevant, some of them weren't, but that didn't matter. And I think most of it, and the joy of the giggles at dinner afterwards about who we heard that day and who we didn't.
Yeah.
And I think there was a lot more taken out of it than the 8 hours a day we're sitting in the chairs. I think it was just really, really awesome for that reason. But just that urgency to think about what you're actually doing every day. And some people literally just drift through. And I came back to work, and I was really, really careful not to come back in like a bowl of china shop.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to see someone's just come back hot off the heels of a conference or something. That was my goal, was to like manage my information and integrate it back into my day-to-day, rather than just sort of being hot one day and then forgetting about by day two. So it's a continuation for me, that it's not all happening on the first day back. It's something I want to do all the time, and I keep working on, and it needs to be kept working on. And so there's a few things that I got out of that in that sense. But
that's huge. And also just going back, that concept of sort of the thirds is really cool. I hadn't thought about it like that. And there's, for everyone that doesn't click with you, there's two that do. So
and for that one, they've got two other people that click with them that they should be concentrating on, so don't worry about them. And it's like, that's really important. And I think that we do get really hooked up on the bottom third, or the things, and it's like, I guess it's where my positive mindset comes from. But I don't try to I surround myself with positive people, as I say, and that's the people I want to be around, and that's the people that I can bond with or have an impact on. That's what it's all about.
I love it.
So
very, very cool. For you, how has the Icehouse sort of unlocked that bigger sense of community? You've talked about in terms of like industries and being open to new industries, but you've come to conference events, things like that.
Absolutely. And I must admit, I was probably a bit of a quiet achiever in the world of business when I went in the sense that I was very tunnel visioned on my own business and just what we do and whatever. Now I'm a bit more, I feel like I try to understand a bit more. I appreciate other people's businesses and what they do and things as well. I read a lot more. I listen to other people's things. I would never have gone to listen to a podcast or anything like that. I would never. I guess taking more of an interest in business in general has been probably my biggest win from it. I've changed from being very, as I said, I guess that television of my own world to the whole world now, and I like to encourage other people's. And I guess I champion other people now as well, and see what they're doing. Go, that's really cool. And it's funny. I get phone calls from people now who say, someone from the Icehouse says, ring Kerryn, she knows about this or whatever. And I find myself sort of networking without trying, and I love that stuff. That's my jam. I love somebody ringing up and saying, hey, what do I do about this? I'm like, I can help with that. And it's like, if someone says, what are you good at? I'm like, I don't know, but I'm really good at telling other people what to do. But I love the networks that I've found, and just being, walk into a room of people that I respect and actually feeling the respect back. And I think, I guess it's confidence that you gain from it, is that, you can walk in and hold your head up high and you've got nothing to hide. Get out there and celebrate your wins and celebrate, and share your losses, and there's somebody who's going to listen. And that's what I've loved most about the community and what I've learned from Icehouse. And it doesn't end. You can choose how you go, and some people might just close the door at the end of OMP and tick it off. But I can see that that's not the normal. I can see from going to conference last year. Someone's like, I'm OMP 15. I'm like, how long ago was that? And it's like you're still as fresh as a daisy in the group, and I'm just a baby, and that passion doesn't leave. And it's like, if that passion doesn't leave, then there's something to be said about the community itself. And so I think that's really cool.
It is cool, and I love that thought you can choose. Because you could choose to finish it there and move on,
absolutely.
But there are lots of options, to step into if you want to choose the way of keeping connected to the community.
Absolutely,
which
and I think
great.
I guess in the sense of that most people that enter it in the first place don't enter it lightly. They've got they're in it for the long haul, and it's and I don't think I even thought about that at the start. I honestly thought to me it was just 5 months. And that was it.
Yeah,
and that I would get my certificate at the end and job done. And I think initially that's exactly what you think when you go into it. You don't actually realise the impact that it's going to have. Well, you'd hope to get some impact, and I guess sometimes I think my business partner must look at me and go, "Why'd you learn at Icehouse again? Have you changed?" I think I have, but and I don't think I should have to prove it to him on a daily basis. But I know in my mind where I'm going and things as well.
You have,
and I guess that was the thing. It was about being the best I can be, and it was a step in that process. So.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, you're an alumni for life, right? So you can come along to any event and things, and that value continues. It's funny you say OMP 15, the event we're going to tonight at Boxman Group. Matt Charles, he was on OMP 15, which is 2007.
Exactly.
Which is like...
That was the year I bought my business.
Yeah, oh, was it? Wow. Wow. Yeah, so to think, it's still a big part of it, hosting an alumni tour tonight. It's just, it's pretty magic, to be honest, when you're working with... or just meeting so many different types of people from so many different industries.
Absolutely.
With long histories there, so that's cool to hear.
The most ironic thing of that is I went to the Christmas party down here last year. I walked in there, and the first person, other than Raymond who jumped on me, who calls me Miss Augustine, she's awesome. So after seeing the girls, as I call them, the first person walked in, I know that person. I thought, gosh, how do I know that guy? And it's like, oh my gosh, reality check. It was my surgeon, the guy who took my melanoma off. And he walked in the door and he's like, what are you doing here? I'm like, what are you doing here? And he's like, I've just started OMP 62, whatever it was.
Was that Jessie?
Yeah.
Oh, how cool.
So there you go. And it's like, how crazy is that? It's like, that journey always seems to intertwine and come back.
Yes.
And that's, little did he know that I was sitting outside his office the day I got the call from Gareth.
Wow.
And there he was, sitting in, and I'm like, holy, and then 5 minutes later I said to him, you know that I've just employed your daughter? And he goes, she's working for you this summer. And I'm like, yeah, I've just employed your daughter for summer. She's doing pharmacy and she's on her summer vacation, so she's working for me. So it's like, it's just such a small world. And,
that's amazing.
But and I just like, and I said to, obviously I think they're just finishing, so this weekend they have their graduation.
Yeah, that's right.
And I said to his daughter yesterday, or Monday at work, I said, Dad's got his graduation this weekend. I said, tell him it's not the end.
Oh, that's so cool.
So
that's so cool.
It's really exciting. It's just crazy.
I think he's coming tonight too, so
cool.
That's cool. Yeah, but that's exactly it. It's just the power of that community. Obviously close to my heart, but I love hearing about it in these conversations too, because it's just that whole business community at play. And one thing I want to touch on that you said is that it helps you to sort of get out of the tunnel vision of just your business and actually find a new passion for business as a whole.
Absolutely.
And I think that's quite an exciting idea, because business can be hard too, and you can kind of feel like crammed in with all the things going on in your world, but how exciting can it be when you can be inspired by others that are doing great things?
And it's just, you think that and I think that's something I talked about with my business partner. He goes, we don't need any help, I know how to run my business. I know I'm the best person for my business, I know everything about that. I'm like, that's really cool, but I'm the different person here. I don't know, I know my business, but I don't know everything about my business. I don't know how to get the best. First to admit, I don't know how to get the best out of my business, and that's where I need help. And so I've now got a business strategy consultant and such that I work with, who just literally challenges me and says, but what do you want to do? No, but what do you want to do? And just can really make my brain think outside the box, and just constantly says, who are your customers? I'm like, blah, blah. I go, no, that's your demographic. You've just listed a list, but who are your customers? And just makes me constantly think about what I'm doing. Some days you feel like you're doing the same old, and you're smiling at people in the shop and you're selling this and that. But other days you just want to do that little bit extra, and because the little bit extra for somebody else repays itself 10 times over to you. And, it's like you just do that bit more for them, but you feel 10 times better and as well. So I try and do that literally, that thing of, being 1% better, but it's like you're doing that little bit extra every day and, it helps other people, but it also helps me. That's, you just always look forward, don't look back.
Yeah. Oh, I could talk to you for a whole nother hour. Seriously, I could talk to you for such a long time.
I did pass talking 101.
I love it. I'm going to finish with this question. What personal and professional goals are you currently working towards?
It's a great question because I really thought about that, particularly in the last 12 months. And so personally, I left Icehouse going, I could get all tied up in work, but I also need to really look after myself. I wasn't the one who got up and went for the walks with Liz in the morning. I made a really good excuse why I don't do hills, I don't do mornings. I, was first to drink at the bar afterwards or whatever, and it's like, actually, I need to look after me. And I'm going to be 50 this year, and I want to be fab at 50, so that was my aim. So near the end of last year, I'm like, it's not going to happen unless I make it happen. So my personal well-being's become a priority. And I'm currently in the middle of a 7-week challenge with my gym, doing that. So just that's like a place of personal well-being, and
love it.
Exercise and nutrition. But I also want to do what if I see something I want to do this year, I'm going to do it. So if I want to jump on a plane with my kids to Fiji, I'm going to go. If I want to go to a concert, I'm going to go. I'm going to wear the shoes, eat the cake kind of story. So that's my personal thing this year, is that I want to empower myself by not making excuses, by doing things I want to do. And if somebody doesn't want to come along for the ride, then I'll go on my own, so to speak. But, it's far more fun when you can bring someone along on the ride. And, I just keep up my... doing those fun things in life. So that's my personal goal. And I think if you can get them right, as I said before, then your business and other goals all go into that as well. Because like when we're talking about my 5-year and 10-year goals, those goals around business are totally intertwined with my personal goals.
Yeah.
So, am I trying to build a fortune? Am I trying to build something, they want to, there's a saleable product, or is it something I want to, do I want to be working when I'm 70? Do I want to be living beside the beach, reading books, doing consultancy? Do I, what is the dream?
Yeah.
And what's the reality? And then finding this match somewhere along the middle. I'm working really hard on that strategy, and when opportunities are arising, I'm just trying, whether they be personal or work ones, I'm just jumping on them. I'm not sitting back anymore. I just want to make sure that if there's an opportunity out there to do something that I'm interested in, I'm just going to do it.
Wow.
So that's my growth strategy. It should be not growth for my waistline, but growth for my brain these days. So
wow,
that's the trick of it all. But there's some cool things in the workplace I'm thinking about, and we did an acquisition last year, which I laughed when everybody talked at OMP about acquisition. I went, Pharmacist doesn't do acquisition. I was the first person in our whole group that did acquisition.
That's awesome.
We bought out 2 pharmacies in a week.
Wow.
Long story, but yeah, so it was like, and I never would have let myself to do stuff like that last year. It's like, no, I now have end goals, and I have visions, and I've had amazing people that have offered their time and effort from OMP that have said, they talk to me about it, Lee Maddox from Frank Accounting just says, I'm on the phone whenever you want me. It's just amazing. And so, and there's somebody else will ring me and say, hey, look, someone from us has said, that you need this, I can help you with that and whatever. So it's been really cool. But networks and connections have suddenly become like really, really important. And the importance of just humanity, like being human. We're not just numbers, we're not just emails, it's like just keeping it human, because you don't talk to your bank manager, they don't know who you are. You don't talk to your accountant, they don't know who you are. You're still a human, you're not just a name. And just keeping those relationships is something that I want to work on. And
wow,
just
be human. I love that.
Be human, because at the end of the day, we're the human race, we're not the digital race.
So true. Honestly, wow, I really am taken back by that conversation and just your realness in it. So thank you so much. And I want you to know that we love having you part of the community.
I love being part of it. It's awesome.
And you really do just spark joy in people when they see you. And so, thank you for what you put in just as much as, you get out. Yeah. Thanks.
I might not be the one in the pink dress in the Boxman tour tonight, but you never know. I might wear something brighter, but it may not be Hovers.
Yeah, I love it. But thank you for your time. Thanks for being on the podcast and sharing your story.
You're amazing too, Brian. I appreciate it very, very much.